Hi, welcome to Pauline Interviews, and today it's my pleasure to interview a good friend of mine and also well-known psychic, Laurie McQuary. Laurie, thank you. We've done shows before, and I'm always happy to interview you. You're a very interesting person.
Thank you.
And the work you do is amazing. And rather than me talk about you, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about the name of your business, what you do. We're here in Lake Oswego, Oregon. You've been here for many years. So how did you call yourself a psychic?
Well, you know, I bandied that around a lot, especially over the years. And yeah, I do, because that's what I do. You know, some people put fancy labels on their work with this intuitive person or just all kinds of stuff. What I do is I'm a psychic, which means I pick up energy from situations and people and read it. It's that simple, and I can do it by phone or I can do it in person.
Now you say it's that simple, but for somebody like me, we all have psychic abilities. Some are more developed than others, and we'll talk about that later. But for someone like me, saying that I pick it up on a phone, I pick it up through energy.
But you do.
I do.
You pick up impressions.
I do.
Let's switch it and call it impressions. Let's not use scary words like energy and psychic intuition.
Right.
Everybody does. You know, when I give the workshops in intuition basics, I always talk about paying attention to somebody when you first meet them. And it could be under the best of social situations, and yet you get a funny feeling. You get a hit. You know, my cop husband would say it's a gut feeling, and boy, he can be right. That's how he was so good in his job. So we all get these impressions. What if we pay attention to them is the issue. Most people don't. You know, you meet your boss's wife and you go, there's something about her I don't like, I better keep my mouth shut, it's my boss's wife. And then 2 years later she runs off with the delivery man. I mean, you know, that's a silly circumstance, but it does happen.
Oh, it happens. Well, the thing about, I get feelings about people, but can you also block them because people, because I like to, sometimes I see things in people I don't want to see it, because I like to believe everybody's really nice.
Right.
And you know, people say, Pauline, come on, didn't you, I
But
think
then
maybe
you get reinforced when the thing turns around and you were
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
And you know, you don't have to act on every impression you get. You just tuck it away.
Yeah.
Just keep it in mind.
And then maybe just know that as a cautionary, you know, maybe you can't
Sure.
trust that person. You don't have to go around talking about them because you
No.
could be wrong.
Right.
So, have you always had these psychic abilities?
No, I've had them since age 18 on, when I had a near-fatal head injury. And it was off a horse, Southern California. I was in a coma for almost a month. Came out of that coma and started having amazing dreams, which I'd never had prior. It took many years to develop because it frightened me, and I wasn't around people who encouraged just exploring that. This was the early 60s. People were not savvy to this. And I unfortunately left California, which was probably a mistake. It wasn't my idea, but I had
That was a good place to be once
it
you
was
develop your
in the
abilities.
60s and 70s. There was people encouraging
Yeah.
that, but instead I ended up in Minnesota for a while.
Ooh.
And then I'm back to California. So over the years, especially after I got into work as a nurse, which I felt was very important to help develop this, because you're tuned into people all the time. Anybody who does humanitarian type work is. And I really took notice. And beyond that, it also began to really develop itself literally with coworkers. I was able to sit with them over the few breaks you get as a nurse, or lunch, and talk about things, and boy, information would come to me and I would give it to them. And boy, they were calling me after hours and saying, can I come see you for more? So that's how a home business began for me.
Now, I want to just go back a little bit. You said you were having some incredible dreams. What kind of dreams were you having?
I had dreams that I saw plane crashes as they happened.
Ooh.
Within 3 days, it was on the news. You know, this was the days prior to email and all our fast news stuff. But it was very vivid, and of course I've had people over the years ask me, well, why didn't you call somebody? Who are you going to call in the 60s and say, I have this odd dream?
Yeah.
You know, even today, gosh, I'd be scared I'd be arrested for terrorism or something.
That's true, I didn't think of that yet.
So, you know, that's where it's always difficult for people, I think, when they recognize the ability, what to do with it, how to live with it is not easy.
But at least now it's more accepted. I mean, there have been TV programs, media.
Let's say exposure is better. I don't think
Exposure.
acceptance is the operative word. There are still lots of people who take real issue with what I do.
I think it's kind of undercover too, because I think a lot of people want to go to a psychic, and we talked about this in a previous show. Why wouldn't you? Because you tell me about myself, and people want to hear,
everybody wants to hear about
and they want to hear good things.
Exactly. Well, they want to hear what they want to hear too sometimes.
Yes.
And, I've had good questions about, is every read right on? Well, not always. Sometimes it takes the other person at least being receptive to what, is being directed to them. But I find most people come in with pretty open minds. After all, they wouldn't come in if they weren't.
Right.
And I really, really like the sense and feeling that I'm helping people.
So you began at 18, and did you work to develop these psychic abilities?
I ran from it. I had these horrible dreams.
Well, right, but you started helping people when you were nursing.
No, I was a nurse. I didn't go to nursing school until I was 27.
Oh.
So I began at that time just really having great rapport with patients, which I think I would have had anyway. And then, like I said, coworkers, and pretty soon people were knocking on my door wanting a session with me, and I wasn't quite sure what to do with that. I was raising 2 kids alone. I was kind of busy. I liked my time home, but it became also a means to an end. I wasn't making much as a nurse in those days. Nurses didn't start making really good pay until around the 80s. So it supplemented, and I started building a business. So that in 1983, I decided that I was going to make it a business. And I left nursing, and I opened up my first office in Lake Oswego. And I've been here ever since, not the same office, but in the same area.
And what did you initially call your business?
Same as I do today, Management by Intuition, which I have to share with you. That was not my idea. I was looking for the right name, and I'm sure you could appreciate most psychics out there are going, oh, let's call it Crystal Intuition or something,
Yeah.
And I had an editor of a magazine who was a friend of mine, and I said, what do you think? He said, call it what it is. It's Management by Intuition.
Well, that's
I
true.
thought it was perfect.
It's a great name.
Well, I wanted to be taken seriously. I didn't want Madam Woo-Woo written on the window. I wanted it to be taken very seriously.
And you look like a businesswoman.
Thank you.
Yeah, I used to work in television, and I was always into metaphysics, and I'm always open-minded about this thing. And but it's hard when I worked at a news station to get them to bring somebody in. Unfortunately, the woman that came in had all these robes on and looked like Madame Woo Woo. So that really doesn't. You should be able to wear what you want, but I think for some reason it doesn't serve the purpose of a
Well,
psychic.
I agree, and that was my take on it when I started, in particular when I started doing a lot of television. I thought, I don't want people to be distracted by what I'm wearing, what I look like. I want to look very normal, because that will be the first piece they'll look at. They'll go, God, she doesn't look weird. Maybe I'll listen to what she says.
She looks like me.
Exactly.
Maybe I can trust her.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, so you've been in business now since 1983, and your business has grown. And people come into your office here in Lake Oswego. But what if somebody wanted to talk to you and they don't live in Lake Oswego, or they're not?
No problem. I do phone readings around the world. I've done them for many, many years. Works the same. I feel the energy, I read the energy. The only thing I'll ask for is a photograph if somebody is reading with me long distance. And I like to see a photograph that gives me more information.
So
all I
nowadays,
need.
they can just email you a photograph.
Yeah, they can, pretty
They
much.
can.
It's nice. It works very smoothly.
So explain to me, how does it work when you look at a photo? Because a photograph, everything does have energy, but it doesn't have as much energy as a live body sitting there. Is it harder?
No.
Oh.
I don't know why. And that's a good question, but I don't know why. If I knew, I'd make it into a pill and sell it, over the counter. I don't know. I can look, well, this is how I've done cases. I look at people who are dead.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna do a segment on that, because that's absolutely fascinating. I'm gonna ask you some of your proudest moments. Yeah, so you have people of all ages, all
The youngest,
walks of
and I've
life.
had people want me to read for their children. They would have to be pretty savvy kids. The youngest I would read for, I would say, would be 12. I've had people approach me and say, we have a child who really is psychic or has this, that, and the other. And I say, I don't want to read for them, let me just meet them. And then I'll just spend a little bit with the child, and the parent can be in the room, it's perfectly fine. And I don't call it a session. I just spend time with that child, because sometimes kids are scared.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're just even, you know, very worried about how they project this in class or anything else. And I would like to do, and I haven't as of yet in all these years, but I'd love to do a series of workshops for kids
That'd be wonderful.
who are experiencing that
Mhm.
wonderful, you know,
Mhm.
piece about that.
I want to talk about that too on another segment, but what I want to ask you is, different psychics, do they pick up information differently? Like you do a number of
Mhm.
things, having, you know, known you for a number of years, I know that you
Yeah.
can, okay, a picture, you know,
And a
name,
birth date.
birth date,
That's it.
name, and you can also hold an object.
I don't do that anymore.
No,
Pauline. But that's psychometry. And a
Psychometry.
lot of good psychics use that.
Mhm.
In particular, psychics who work cases. My friend Noreen Rainier, who's a well-known psychic on the East Coast,
Mhm.
does that. That's how she works still, and she's very good. But I don't need that. And you would be absolutely astonished, some of the strangest things people have sent me in the mail to do a phone reading, thinking I need to do the psychometry. It's been very strange. So I don't need that anymore.
You know what worried me about energy on objects is, number one, as far as picking up the psychic energy, maybe a lot of people have handled it. So how do you, you know, it has to be something that's really close to that person, that's been on them for quite a while.
I think it takes the intense focusing of the person doing that work.
Mhm.
And you're correct.
Yeah.
But however, what I find fascinating is if people just want to practice that, go to one of your secondhand stores. In particular, picking up jewelry, picking up something that was very, very personal, and just kind of let yourself feel what imagery comes through. Anybody can do it.
I'm glad you said that, because my other scary thing is, if I go to a secondhand shop and buy a piece of jewelry and that has that energy of a
You're bringing
person,
bad energy home?
yeah, if a person was really depressed or something like that.
Well, I like to think that we're all made of stronger stuff than that.
Or we
If
could
you
bless
want-
it.
You could do,
Oops.
that was
So all that,
interesting.
speaking of stronger stuff.
Yes, look at the moment
jewelry.
it chose to flop.
Jewelry.
Gee, and this is mine as far as I know, first part. But that's a good question.
Yeah.
And yet, you know,
Wash the clothes, I mean, you know, I
well,
just,
yeah, clothing.
yeah, of
you
course
would
wash it,
want
but I
to.
mean, even if it's
But as
only,
far as
you know,
objects, you know,
Yeah.
I just think that energy is there, and I think it quits the minute it leaves the person
Uh-huh.
who left, who died or whatever,
Yeah.
left it
Because
behind.
we're not gonna talk about this now, but speaking of hauntings, I've seen some shows where there's been a piece of furniture and there's some bad energy around it. I mean, I don't know how much of that is true.
I think it's what the amount of credence you give it.
Okay.
And I get worried about people who get worried about
Yes.
really being obsessed with
Mhm.
Uncle Harry's chair in the corner.
Mhm.
And is it bringing bad energy? Well, move it. If you really feel that way, take care of it.
Uh-huh.
But no, I don't allow that stuff to rule my life. I really don't. I am cautious when I go into settings where I'm working cases or that's a haunting, as you call it.
Yeah.
I just don't want to bring that energy home, so I do a
Right.
Native American smudging.
Mhm.
But that's just cautionary, and I never give it another thought once I've left.
It's been fun talking to you about what you do and who you are. And is there anything that I didn't ask you that you'd like people to know about your work here in Lake Oswego, Oregon, management by intuition?
Well, I would encourage people to at least have an open mind, even if you're skeptical, be open. I'm not the only psychic around, but I'd love, if you're local or want a phone session, to talk with you.
Mhm.
It's an addition to your life, it's not a replacement of anything in your life. When you come in to see a very reputable psychic, and that means somebody who's got good history, you can certainly check on it and just listen to what the universe wants to share with you.
I think in our next segment, we'll talk about the kind of people that come in, what kind of questions they
Mhm.
ask, and then also you can give people a questionnaire on what to look for in a psychic and what,
Exactly.
yeah, what to expect. Okay.
All right.
Thanks for joining Laurie and me on the Pauline Interviews.